Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today we're going to talk about the RTD2 era. And I believe I can say with pretty strong confidence that the Russell T Davies 2 era has failed. I do believe it has failed. It has not achieved what they wanted to do. I think Doctor Who has been in danger for a while now. Possibly since midway through Capaldi's era, but especially since the Whittaker era. And I know there's people out there who like the Whittaker era. Not judging. If you like the Whittaker era, my hat's off to you. But I think objectively, the show has been problematic since then. There were a lot of fans who were disappointed with it. Numbers were going down. Again, this kind of started partway through the Capaldi era. Numbers were going down. Casting a female doctor in the role was controversial for some fans, and I think we have to accept that. That was a controversial decision. The writing, I don't think was always there. While I will admit Whittaker has some strong episodes and a strong performance in some episodes, there are other times she doesn't click with me. She strikes me as someone with a 2-second attention span, which I think Jodie would say is just Jodie. And I like Jodie Whittaker as an actress, I do. But she strikes me as like the 10th Doctor on speed. She's just always bouncing off the walls. I never quite clicked with her. There's a few scenes I click with her, but not overall. Also, I think 2 of her 3 seasons are the 2 weakest seasons in all of Doctor Who, Season 11 and Season 13, or Series 11 and Series 13. I actually find Series 12 underrated, just with a terrible finale. And I think by the end of the Chibnall era, I think that's why Chibnall only had 1 Doctor. I think 3 seasons in, signs were on the wall, the viewership was declining. I think they panicked. I actually think they were originally going to cancel the show then. There was talk, that originally they didn't know what to do with Doctor Who, especially considering this was like the year before the 60th. Most shows, if they're knocking on the door of their 60th anniversary and still going, you figure they'd find a way to get 1 more year out, excuse me, just to capitalize on that. But there was talk about the show ending. That's why if you look at Jodie Whittaker's regeneration, the way it's shot, it looks like it was going to be an open-ended regeneration with the camera panning around her, which would have been an excellent decision. And Power of the Doctor felt like a series finale. It felt like a nice tribute to everything Doctor Who, bringing back classic companions. It crams a lot in. It felt like it was made to end the show. And it's a good episode. Whittaker's best episode. And then I think when they found out Russell was willing to come back, they started thinking, oh, it's going to be 2008 again. Because the RTD1 era was so popular and so successful. And it was a good era. It was. It just honestly was. With 3 out of the 4 seasons being almost flawless. With really only Series 2 being a mixed bag and still had high highs in it. So you have 3 really good seasons and 1 kind of middle-of-the-road season, which still had some high highs, but also had some low lows. So I can understand bringing Russell back. I think a lot of people wanted Russell to come back. Bringing David Tennant back. Bringing Catherine back. To have the Doctor and Donna again. I think a lot of people got excited about that. A lot of people were huge 10th Doctor fans. And a lot of people love Donna. Donna's my favorite modern companion. So there was definitely hope. And they really went big. You had the deal with Disney for all the extra money. You had not just a deal for the specials and Series 1 and 2 of the modern show. You also had a deal for a spinoff. And then that you also had all of classic Doctor Who coming to the iPlayer, or practically all of classic Doctor Who. And then you also had the colorizations of 60s stories with the Daleks and the War Games. So you had a lot they were trying to do here out of the gate. They had, I think, very good intentions, very high hopes. And the problem is, over the past year and a half, really, we've really seen this fall flat on its face. I think the specials were received well for the most part. I mean, the giggle is good, but they have a lot of messaging nonsense in there that doesn't need to be in there. I think they handle Rose well for the most part, but you have those little times that are unnecessary, like when the doctor's talking to the Meep and Rose is like, well, you're just assuming the pronoun is a he. And Tennant's like, oh yes, how do you refer to you? That doesn't need to be there. And then the bit at the end with them getting on to the doctor. It's a shame you're not a woman anymore, because you would have gotten it, or she would have gotten it, whatever she says. And the whole bit about just let it go, it's so unnecessary and stupid and doesn't need to be there. And to be fair, the Big Finish version of that story is better, but it's also longer and has more room to breathe. Wild Blue Yonder is really good. I enjoyed that story. And the giggle is mostly good. It gets a little silly at the end. And I don't really like the idea of bi-generation, but the first half or 2/3 of it's really good. And it's still an enjoyable story. And then you look at stuff like classic Doctor Who on the iPlayer. We know of a handful of episodes are not on there anymore, like Terror of the Zygons and Seeds of Doom, which is the same writer, I know. But they haven't seemed in a hurry to get those back. You figure they'd be trying to get a new plan in place to get those back, as they are popular stories from a very popular season. So I wonder if they're fighting that hard to keep Doctor Who on the iPlayer, or if once the rights for a particular story have expired, they're just going to let it go. And in the next 2 or 3 years, we'll just see more stories start slowly trickling off the iPlayer as the agreement for that story reaches its conclusion, and they're not going to take the time to renew that to keep most of the classic catalog on there. I'm curious to see what's going to happen there. Also, we've heard no news about another colorization of a 60s story. And I wonder if that's simply because the RTD2 era has not been the big hit they think it was. I mean, I love the fact that one of the things Russell wanted to do was edit down and colorize classic 60s stories to make them a little more approachable for a younger audience. I get that because the pacing of 60s television can be hard for a younger person, because the 60s television pacing is very different from television today. It just is. And to be honest, I find the Daleks drags. And you're not supposed to watch most of Classic Who in one sitting, especially those 60s stories, 6, 7 parts. They're meant to be watched weekly. They're not, an episode a week. They're not meant to be watched all at one time. The Daleks is not easy to do that. Even the War Games. I love the War Games, but it's hard to go through 10 episodes all at one time. You need a little break in there. So I like the idea of making it, editing it down where it's more suited for the attention span of a younger person who's a fan more of the modern show. And colorizing it, just the colorizations look great, especially on the War Games. The colorization, that's probably the best colorization of something I've ever seen. It looks phenomenal. And even the Daleks, I like the colorization. It's a more 60s technicolor look, but I enjoy it. I actually prefer the edited down colored version of the Daleks over the original. And so I think it's a shame we're not getting any more of those, it looks like. I figure if we were going to get some more of those, we would have gotten word. And the people who were involved on those 2 colorizations have been on the record as saying they don't have any more in the pipeline, that they'd love to do more, but there's no more actively ongoing at the moment. Now, to be fair, they could just be saying that. They could be under contract and don't want to let the cat out of the bag. So they could be working on another one. And when asked, they're like, no, unfortunately, we don't have one right now. Hee. That's possible. There could be one going on under wraps we don't know about, but I get the impression there's not. And I feel like if the RTD2 era had done really well, if it had been a hit like they were hoping, then I could see these continuing. I'd love to get Dalek Invasion of Earth in color, an edited down version of that. I think it'd be great. That location work with the Daleks, great. I'd love to get the Seeds of Death for Troughton. I would absolutely love that. I think that episode would look gorgeous in color. But I think because the era hasn't been the hit they were hoping for, that I really think the two colorizations we've got are probably the only ones we're going to get, sadly. Especially since I figure we would have heard something by now if they were working on it. And then the fact we still haven't gotten, you wonder how this affects other aspects of Doctor Who, the collection range, the animations. Now, the collection range, I think, is going to be fine, because I believe all 26 seasons have been commissioned, and they've been, actively working on different seasons, banking stuff. So I think we're going to get all 26 seasons of the collection range. Hopefully a Wilderness Years set, that's up in the air. But I think technically all 26 seasons of the collection range have been commissioned. So I think we're going to be good there. The animations, another mystery. Now, we heard back around before the Savages released that they were working on a deal for more animations. It wasn't 100% done yet, but things were looking really good. It was kind of basically they were saying, it's not 100% signed on the dot, but we're pretty sure it's going to be fine. But they also mentioned that the next animation would be at least a year off, and whenever the showing was, February, March, so a year off from at least February or March. But the fact we haven't gotten any confirmation of that deal going through makes me wonder, if modern Doctor Who is officially on hiatus or canceled, is this going to affect the future animations? Are they going to dry up? Because we still haven't gotten an official confirmation. Yes, we're going to get more animations. So to me, that's still up in the air. Until we get an official announcement that there will be another animation, I'm going to wait. I'm not going to just assume we're going to get it. And then the fact, the show itself just feels like it's been on life support since season 1. I think Disney really made a lot of their decisions based on what season 1 did. In season 1, the numbers weren't the best. The numbers were pretty rough. And the quality of the episodes vary wildly. I think it's a mixed bag. Of the 8 episodes that make up season 1, I liked 4 of them and I didn't like 4 of them. And the season finale really did leave a bad taste in people's mouth. And, a lot of fans, you've got to stick that landing. Sticking the landing is a big deal. So when you have something like Empire of Death that's just very underwhelming and very disappointing, that's what people tend to think of in their head. And I feel like the temperature of the fans, so to speak, was not very high after that. And I'm sure Disney picked up on that. And I honestly think they decided even between season 1 and 2, they probably weren't going to renew, but I think they were waiting until season 2. But the fact that season 2's finale had to be altered with reshoots before the season even aired because Disney had not made a decision, and Shooty couldn't wait. He's an in-demand actor. He wanted out of his contract. I don't blame him. He has a chance to make a name for himself and make some good money. Is very telling. I think a lot of this was decided really, again, before season 2 even aired. Because season 1 and season 2 were filmed back to back. Now, I think the Christmas special, Joy to the World, is just kind of, I don't really think it's that great, to be honest. It does some stuff I like, some stuff I don't. It's not a garbage episode, but I don't think it's a good episode. And then season 2, I like for the most part. I think season 2 was a big step up. I don't think it has any S-tier stories like season 1 had, but I think it has a lot of solid B-tier stories. And with really just the finale, which again, you got to stick that landing with the finale being underwhelming. Russell's just not the best with finales, let's be honest. And so once again, you have an episode where, everybody's like, wow, they're 5 for 5. Wow, they're arguably 6 for 6. Then you get that finale and it leaves that bad taste in your mouth, especially with that random regeneration, and the show feels on life support. And it's like, if you have a family member that's in the hospital and they're brain dead, like the only thing keeping them alive is the life support. And they're kind of having that moment where they gather the whole family in to say their goodbye before they switch off the life support. That's kind of where it feels like we are right now with Doctor Who. I feel like Disney has not been pleased. I feel like they're going to leave. Again, we don't know what's going on behind closed doors, but everybody seems very certain they're going to leave. But possibly maybe find someone else, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Max, who knows? Maybe they'll find someone else willing to invest in it. Or maybe they'll just go back to trying to make it themselves, even if they can't do a full season. Maybe do a 4 or 5 episode season, like a mini season, some specials or something. But the show just has this stench of death to it, just like a zombie. There's no, it doesn't have that hopeful feeling it had to it back when Russell was first announced to be coming back, and you were like, ho, 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 we're so back. Instead, it's been very disappointing, despite having some good episodes. I think a lot of people never clicked with Gatwa's daughter. Doctor. I think younger people might have clicked with Shooty's doctor, but I do think there's a lot of older fans, especially Classic Who fans, who probably didn't click with his doctor. His doctor is very different, and I think there are people out there who didn't click with the fact he's very gay-coded. He is a very gay-coded doctor, very obviously. And I think there are people out there who might have had a problem with that just doesn't feel like the doctor to them. He's also a very human doctor, and a lot of people don't necessarily click with that. That's the same problems a lot of people have with the 10th Doctor and the 14th Doctor. He's very human, and a lot of people like their Doctor to be more alien, like, say, Tom Baker, or even Peter Capaldi. So there's very possible people did not click with him being so human, with 10. And in a way, as I said before, he kind of feels like the Colin Baker of the modern series, where he's only there a couple seasons, and they're shorter seasons, and some of his episodes are Dr. Light episodes. Oddly enough, possibly his 2 best episodes are Dr. Light episodes. He had a very rushed regeneration that looks a bit sloppy, much like, again, Colin. And much like Colin, we never really got to explore his doctor. And his doctor certainly had some flaws. The crying all the time was a bit bothersome. But I did like the enthusiasm he had. The character and the enthusiasm that Shooty brought to the role. He seemed to enjoy playing the character. But I feel like his doctor... I feel like in an era when you really needed to get back to basics and cast a more traditional doctor, personality-wise, I feel like they took a huge swing casting him. And I feel like for a lot of people it was a good swing. But I feel like for a lot of people it was a disappointing swing. I liked Ruby a lot. Millie Gibson's a great actress. I think Ruby might be the best thing to come out of this era, casting-wise. I think Veranda starts out really well as Belinda, and then I feel bad because Belinda's just, the writing for her just cuts off after like her 3rd episode. After the well, her writing just goes, and she becomes two-dimensional like Dodo, which is disappointing, honestly. It's been a long time since I've seen a companion just not get fleshed out well like that. So I think there's a reason why, even before Season 2 aired, and certainly during Season 2, the franchise has this feeling of waiting on a hiatus, of taking a break, of not even a Christmas special being scheduled. And, a couple years ago, we were getting everything, including a spinoff. We still have the spinoff to go. The spinoff doesn't really interest me, but we still have it to go. I might watch it just because I like Pete a lot. Pete McTighe, however you say his last name. I like him. So, I don't know if he would make a good showrunner. I think I'd let him try showrunning, even though I find his Doctor Who episodes to be, very mid or good, C or B tier. Like, I don't think he has any S-tier stories, but I don't think he has any, like, garbage stories either. I mean, Praxius is a bit boring, but I don't think it's necessarily bad. Kerblam I enjoy, but it's certainly not an A or S-tier story. And then, Lucky Day, C-tier, average. I enjoy some of the stuff it does. It's not bad for a Dr. Light episode, I think. But I know he can do good stuff. His Doctor Who shorts are really good. The collection, the Doctor Who, the collection shorts he does are phenomenal. They're really, really good. He understands classic Who really well. And then also, I know he does the booklets in the sets. He's the one who does out the booklets, and those are great reads. So I feel like if you gave Pete McTeague showrunner, and then you gave someone there to balance him, script editor. You know, if you did it like Classic Who, where you had a producer and a script editor, and they worked together, and God, if they brought back Andrew Cartmel. Imagine Pete McTeague and Andrew Cartmel working together on Doctor Who. And you took the show back to its Classic Who format. Like, you do 5 stories. 4 4-parters and a 6-parter. Or, 5 4-parters. I feel like you give the show room to breathe. I feel like Pete would write really good episodic television. You get rid of the story arcs, or else you make the seasonal arcs lighter, more like the early Russell T Davies 1 era with like Bad Wolf and Harold Saxon and Torchwood. You have it there, but it's just kind of sprinkled in. It's not, overriding the narrative of every episode like we have now. Or again, just switch to episodic format like Classic Who. Or if you're going to have something tie it together, have it like The Key to Time, where everything is still kind of separate stories. I think you could have a really good show, potentially. But yeah, I think right now the show is barely clinging to life support. I guess they're wondering, I guess they're going to wait and see what the War Between the Land and the Sea does, whenever we're going to get that. Hopefully we'll get at least one special so we can resolve what's going on with Billy. Maybe bring 14 back. I know some people have theorized that Billy's just an interim doctor because something went wrong. And then at the end, her and 14 are going to merge back together to create the 17th Doctor. Personally, I'm fine with that. Because I feel like having the 14 just floating around just doesn't work from a narrative standpoint. But I do think there's also the possibility of just a hiatus, of no one being interested. There are ways to fix Doctor Who. There truly are. Make me the showrunner. I got ideas. You don't have any showrunning experience. That's all right. I can still do better than what's been done the past 10 years. I promise. I have ideas. Someone from the BBC get in touch with me and we'll have a powwow. So I want to know, what do you think? Comment down below and let's talk about it. Don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button as well. I also have a Patreon if you'd like to support me on that. I have my P.O. box down there if there's anything you'd like to send me to look at and review. I do have a birthday coming up at the beginning of July if anyone wants to send anything for that. I have a link to my Amazon wishlist down there and a link to my Amazon UK wishlist down there as well. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons: Colin Coney, Sam Venning, Finn Perkins, and Unknown289. I appreciate their support, as I did the support of all of my patrons. Most importantly, thank you for watching.